Every winter, well-meaning homeowners repeat the same ritual. Windows are sealed with plastic, door gaps are stuffed, vents are blocked. Any hint of outside air is treated as the enemy. On paper, this looks smart. Less heat loss, lower bills, more comfort. In reality, this modern obsession with airtight living is creating the perfect conditions for respiratory illness, chronic fatigue, mold exposure, and immune stress. Older homes and older generations understood something we have largely forgotten. A house must breathe, especially in winter. When it does not, the people inside slowly pay the price. Older homes were built to exchange air, whether owners noticed or not. Homes built before the mid-20th century were never airtight. Loose window frames, chimneys that constantly drew air upward, floorboards with gaps, and unsealed attics allowed a steady, passive exchange of indoor and outdoor air. Cold air entered slowly. Warm air escaped gradually. This was not inefficiency, it was balance. The air inside these homes rarely stagnated long enough to accumulate moisture, pathogens, or combustion gases. Even during harsh winters, indoor air was refreshed dozens of times per day without anyone opening a window. This constant exchange kept humidity lower, reduced mold growth, diluted smoke and cooking fumes, and limited the concentration of airborne illnesses. People still got sick, but the house itself did not amplify illness the way modern sealed spaces do. When a home is sealed too tightly, everything produced inside, well, it just stays inside. Moisture from breathing, cooking, showers, and even houseplants builds up real quick. That moisture condenses inside walls, behind furniture, and around window frames where temperatures are colder. Mold spores thrive in these hidden damp zones and, spread invisibly through the air. At the same time, viruses and bacteria exhaled by folks living there linger far longer. In older homes, fresh air helped dilute them, but in sealed homes, they just circulate over and over. This is why entire households often get sick together and, honestly, stay sick longer during winter. Add modern materials like pressed wood, synthetic flooring, cleaning chemicals, and gas appliances, and the air becomes a slow chemical soup with nowhere to escape. One of the least discussed problems of airtight winter homes is carbon dioxide accumulation. Every breath adds CO2 to the room. Without adequate ventilation, levels rise steadily overnight. Elevated indoor CO2 doesn't cause immediate alarm, but it reduces oxygen efficiency in the body, leading to morning headaches, brain fog, poor sleep quality, and irritability. Back in the day, historical homes managed to avoid a lot of indoor air problems just through passive airflow. Chimneys, for example, acted like exhaust systems, pulling stale air out. And, all those little air leaks around windows and doors made sure there was a constant replacement of fresh air coming in. These days, folks wake up feeling exhausted and, they tend to blame it on age, stress, or maybe even their diet. But honestly, the real issue might just be the air they've been breathing in all night for 8 hours straight. A lot of preppers and history-minded families out there still use wood stoves, kerosene heaters, or propane systems to get through the winter. But it's important to remember these systems were originally designed for homes that were, a bit drafty. When you install them in a house that's sealed up tight, they can start acting in ways you just don't expect. Inadequate makeup air can cause incomplete combustion, which produces higher levels of carbon monoxide and fine particulates. Older homes, they naturally supplied replacement air through all those little gaps and cracks. But modern homes often do not. This, unfortunately, forces exhaust gases to linger or even backdraft into living spaces. Symptoms often show up as chronic coughs, burning eyes, sinus irritation, and unexplained nausea during those winter months. Winter air inside sealed homes often swings between damp and excessively dry depending on the heating method. Forced air systems and space heaters, they strip moisture without replacing fresh air. Dry nasal passages, well, they lose their ability to trap viruses and bacteria effectively. This just makes respiratory infections more likely and, honestly, more severe. Historically, airflow helped keep indoor humidity in check. Fresh, cold air might have carried less absolute moisture, but it sure did prevent the air inside from getting saturated and stagnant. The goal back then wasn't just about staying warm, it was really about making a place livable. But nowadays, our tightly sealed environments are all about trapping heat, often at the cost of our own respiratory resilience. In older houses, mold growth was usually pretty obvious and folks would take care of it right away. But in modern, sealed-up homes, mold can grow out of sight, behind drywall, inside insulation, under flooring, and even in the HVAC systems. People end up getting exposed to it every single day, and most of the time they don't even know it. Back in the day, good ventilation kept mold at bay, not with chemicals or fancy dehumidifiers, but just with plain old airflow. Mold can't grow on dry surfaces, and moving air naturally dries things out, even when it's cold outside. Now, the solution here, folks, is not just going back to those old drafty days of discomfort. What you really want is controlled breathing for your house. If you crack a window just a little bit on opposite sides of your home for short periods, you get some nice cross-ventilation without losing much heat at all. And, running those bathroom and kitchen exhaust fans on a regular basis, that removes moisture right at the source. Plus, keeping your interior doors open lets the air move around instead of creating those dead zones where nothing circulates. For anyone out there using wood stoves or combustion heaters, here's a tip. Providing a dedicated air intake makes things both safer and more efficient. This kind of mirrors the way older homes naturally brought in fresh air for their fireplaces. Even just simple habits, like airing out your bedrooms for about 10 minutes every day, can really make a difference. It can dramatically improve your sleep quality and even give your immune system a nice boost. Our grandparents did not talk about indoor air quality, but they sure lived it. Windows were open briefly, even in cold weather. Bedding was aired. Kitchens vented heat and steam outdoors. These were not quirks. They were survival habits shaped by experience. Illness spread faster in stagnant air, long before microscopes confirmed why. Modern efficiency, well, it erased these instincts. History reminds us that warmth alone does not equal health. Air is as critical as insulation. A sealed home that makes occupants chronically ill is not resilient. True preparedness, well, it really balances warmth, air, moisture, and safety. Understanding how older homes functioned gives modern households a blueprint for healthier winter living without abandoning efficiency. If you control airflow intentionally, you control mold growth, illness spread, combustion safety, and long-term comfort. This is not nostalgia. It is applied historical knowledge. History consistently shows that human health declines when environments become stagnant. Winter does not change this rule. Houses that breathe protect their occupants. Houses sealed without thought quietly undermine them. If this kind of historically grounded practical knowledge matters to you, subscribe to Warfield Prepper Chronicles. Share this guide with anyone still wondering why winter sickness feels worse every year. Understanding the past is one of the strongest survival tools we have.